Taylor Swift sent me a cancer patient. Hair accessories. I stumbled upon this shop and I cannot tell you how happy I was to find a place that called Taylor Swift out on her bullcrap. And I want to share my Taylor Swift story here because I feel like this is the only place I can do so. This is a rant and it's a bit long, but it is 100% true and showcases what kind of person she really is. I used to be Swiftie. I followed her from her first album all the way up until 1989. My first ever concert was seeing her on the Red Tour. I felt like she understood me and cared about me. Her music was important to me in so many ways. When I was 11, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. For anyone who doesn't know, AML is one of the most aggressive and deadly blood cancers that mostly affects older men. It was absolutely brutal on my body. I will forever have heart concerns because of the chemo they used and tried to get rid of my cancer. I fell into a deep depression. My care team at the hospital and my parents essentially signed me up for every kind of therapy possible to try to get me out of this horrible cloud of depression. I did not like most of them, but I found I liked the music therapist, and so I chose to do music therapy. My music therapist found out I loved Taylor Swift, and together we rewrote the lyrics to Shake It Off, which was really big at the time. Our lyrics were about shaking off cancer. It was therapeutic. But then, as we talked about it more, we decided to make a music video. We got the entire hospital involved, down to the construction workers across the street. And they brought in a professional camera crew. I sang horribly. I had cancer and my vocal cords were shot. And we made a video. The PR team at the hospital sent the video out, and it actually generated a substantial amount of buzz. It was an article on People magazine online, as well as Fox and the Daily Mail. It was not long after her mother had been diagnosed with cancer and several months before Taylor was due to come to St. Louis for her 1989 tour. I had tickets, but obviously was unable to go. It crushed me. It was the goal of everyone to get her to visit the hospital, but I realistically, even as a kid, knew she probably wouldn't visit us while she was in town. But I still hoped she'd send me something. A little note or a signed card or something to say that she saw me and she cared. After all, her mom was just diagnosed and she would be in town. Considering all the media buzz, there is no way in heck she or her people didn't hear about it, period. And even though the hospital people were reaching out and everyone I knew was using their connection in some way to reach her or her people, it was complete and utter radio silence. Nothing. The concert came and went, she didn't visit, and I felt like one person I admired most in the world didn't care about me. Now, for everyone who hasn't been to a Taylor Swift concert, which I will guess is a great deal of you all, people who buy tickets at a certain level receive a kind of a swag bag with a merch before the concert. Or they used to, I have no idea how it is now. A bag, some pins, a t-shirt, etc. I had received one when I went on her Red Tour when I was younger. It's not a super special thing, it's just a random merch they give to people to incentivize them to buy more expensive tickets. Several months after this, I received a package through the mail. I am still in the hospital, mind you, and it was from Taylor Swift's people. I was so excited! But all it was aforementioned generic crap. It was clearly a leftover bag because some of the merch was a bit defective, and sitting right on top of the bag's contents were themed hair toys and barrettes. Whoever sent this bag didn't give a flying F about me. They wanted me to shut up and stop asking for attention. They didn't even bother to check the contents of the bag to send me a t-shirt that was my size, or to get rid of the horrific reminder that I have no hair. I made excuses for her for the longest time. She's busy, or her people sent it, not her. But screw that! She couldn't take the 5 seconds it takes to scroll out a quick note to me? When I tell Swifties this story, they often brush me off and say it wasn't her, but I don't care. I was downright thinking about ending myself and beyond depressed, and the thought that this singer, who I admired so very much, would send me a quick little something was literally all I clung onto for a month. Yeah, I should probably let it go, but I won't. It was an awful thing for a person to do, especially someone who admired and loved you so much. So she's even more popular and I cannot avoid her stupid face no matter what I do. I am reminded of that horrible feeling every single time I have to hear about her. And I am so sick of the people who worship her like a god or something when she's really just a selfish and spiteful person. I don't even know what to say. I cannot even fathom how great you should think of yourself that you expect celebrities, billionaires to care about you. And let's not forget that this post comes from an adult person. I could understand if it was a child who is upset, who is sick, but it is an adult person. No, Taylor Swift doesn't owe you anything, like anything. The bit about hair ties is upsetting though, because it really is a bad tone to send a chemo patient a hair tie. Seems like an evil joke, but nonetheless, it doesn't really make the situation any better. OMG entitlement of some people. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I really want to get 25 more subscribers till the end of the week. So if you subscribe, you will make my day. Entitled couple thinks they should control our vacations. So I, 21 female, have a big friend group of around 10 people. We usually get along fine and get together a few times per month. A few years ago, we tried to set up a vacation with all of us, but it didn't work out because no one could find the same exact time to go. So we went with 7 people, leaving the other 3 behind. The other 3 were fine with it and wished us fun. This vacation was kind of a disaster because of 2 people specifically. Let's call them Danielle, 20, female, and her boyfriend Marcus, 21, male. They micromanaged everything, told us what to do and where to go at all times, and overall, it was not fun. Last year, I came up with the idea of going to Ibiza with a few people. I asked in the group chat and said I could bring 4 people, because my family has a vacation home there with space for 4 extra guests. The first 4 who responded went with me. Danielle and Marcus were not part of this vacation and got extremely upset, calling us names and saying we weren't real friends, etc. We offered to have them come if they book an Airbnb nearby, but they only agreed if we split the bill with them. We tried to accommodate and communicated every detail, but the booking got postponed so much that it cost us a lot extra, almost 200 euros each, which is like $215. We couldn't find a solution and decided to go to Ibiza without them. They got very mad and said we cannot go on vacation without including everyone. The other 3 people from the first vacation were also not going, and they were okay with it. It was just Danielle and Marcus who were upset. They imposed a rule that you can go on vacation if it is just 2 people, but if it is 3 and above, you need to invite everyone. Fast forward to this year, I found that rule stupid and asked my 4 best friends in this group if they wanted to go to Spain. They said yes, and we started planning. My grandma surprised us for my 21st birthday by purchasing rooms in a beautiful hotel for each of us. So it was quickly decided we would go. We knew we had to tell Danielle and Marcus somehow, because just going without telling them would make them very upset. We postponed it and 2 months went by without telling them, making it awkward. I finally told them kindly what the plan was and that it was not intended to be rude. Well, it backfired. They became extremely upset. When I first told Danielle, she was okay with it. But then I received a text from her that they were actually extremely mad at me. They were upset that my friends and I didn't communicate and just booked the vacation without them. We somewhat understand, but we just didn't want to go through the whole thing again like last year. Well, first of all, bougie! Because I guess the biggest surprise I got from my grandma was like a box of Ferrero Rochers. But yeah, I guess different tax bracket, right? But as for Marcus and Danielle, OMG! How entitled you should be. So you're like, well, I cannot afford to go on that vacation, and I was not fast enough to get a free accommodation, so you know what we can do? You can pay for my vacation. I wish world worked like that. Well, maybe it does in the world of people who have holiday homes in Ibiza. Anyway, they are very entitled and honestly very childish. Also, guys, if there is a subreddit that you want me to cover, please write it in the comment and 100% I will cover that subreddit. Complain to everyone about your work if you must, but you done working here equals 10 years wages. So every morning I walk my dog at the off-leash dog park. It is a small town, all the dog walkers have become friendly. I am in my mid-40s, made friends with June, who is 80 years old. June told me this lovely malicious compliance story from about 25 years or more ago. June was working as a school teacher and was retraining as a social worker. She left teaching for 2 years working as a social worker when her previous school asked her to run a class for at-risk children. The deal was that she would teach children aged 12 to 18, grade 7 to 12, who come from backgrounds of emotional, physical, and other mistreatment. The job was casual, so she didn't get paid for holidays, sick leaves, etc. She was supposed to teach 6 kids with an aide, but ending up with 20 kids and no teacher's aide. As you can imagine, their behavior was terrible. She believed she could help, and she said she did make some real differences. The work was really stressful, but she was passionate about it. After 3 years and multiple promises of making her a permanent staff member, getting an aide plus a smaller classes, June was burnt out. She demanded help from the principal, who refused and told her since she complained, it's for the last time, and sacked her. He told her she's casual and she go complain to everyone and everywhere, but as a casual worker, you have very little rights. So June did complain to everyone. School inspector, the union, Department of Education, it was a state school. And even her local member of parliament, who told her she has had a tough deal, but it is the life of a casual worker. She finally complained to the state authority that deals with safe work practices. They were interested as the school has breached state policy on class sizes for special needs kids, teacher aides, providing a safe environment, etc. They ordered the Department of Education to pay her workers' compensation while they sorted it out. So now June was paid each fortnight, including leave and all benefits, 52 weeks per year, instead of 40. The fallout was big after the investigation. Lots of people sacked or moved on. What this did was leave June without a boss. The Safe Work Practice Department closes the case as they believe it was now a Department of Education matter to pay June out. Everyone has forgotten about June and she got lost in government paperwork. They still paid her and she kept quiet. It took 10 years before they found her in an employee audit. Then they paid her out. June was ready to retire about then, so it worked out beautifully. I love this story. I am all for justice. How is it legal? Can't they just ask the money back after 10 years? And as much as I root for June, I am worried about her. But again, as we can judge from the post, she got away with it, so yay! Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I really want to get 25 more subscribers till the end of the week. So if you subscribe, you will make my day. I can definitely get that sauce for you. I'm a server and I take great pride in my ability to efficiently run my section. The key is maximizing each trip to and from the kitchen. So rather than getting table 31 a refill, the table 32 more salt, then drop the check at 33, you check in at each table on your way to the back, grab everything in one go and head out to the dining room, cutting down 3 trips to 1. As long as the customer trusts me to do my job, we're all going to have a great experience. That said, my biggest pet peeve is when a customer asks every employee that passes their field of vision for the same thing. For example, extra range. Why is it always extra range? I am not talking about when you ask me for the range, then see me come from the back and it's clear I have forgotten it. I'm talking about when you ask me for more range, then 3 seconds later ask the food runner who just dropped off your fries for more range, then the manager who topped off your water for more range, then as 3 of us are in the back clamoring for the squeeze bottle like a bunch of religious zealots, desperate to touch the hem of range god's buttermilky robe, a 4M effort turns up telling us that the table 32 wants more range. My malicious compliance in those moments is that I make sure every single person that was asked drops their own ramekin of range off at the table. Then I come up last with the final ramekin and the biggest poop-eating grin you've ever seen. I completely ignore the fact that most of their table is now taking over with the little dishes of range, rearranging some if need to make more room for my final contribution. Because hey, if you asked 4 people for range, you must want a lot of range, and isn't it great that you have it now? Meanwhile, the look of embarrassment or shame or even anger I get from the customer is enough to keep me from running head first full speed into a brick wall the next time someone yells at me because their ahi tuna poke appetizer has raw fish. Ooh, I love poke bowls. Never had one with tuna. Always go for salmon. Oh, you made me hungry now. Well, now we know what I will have for lunch. Even though I love this malicious compliance, on the other hand, it is very wasteful. I understand it's not your range and we don't care about business owners because we are working people, right? But it's food waste. It harms our planet. And honestly, range and French fries, I don't like that combo. But blue cheese, divine. What about you guys? What is your to-go sauce for your fries? I already said we were going to do it, so just do it. My coworker told me to share this here. New Reddit account because mine is super identifiable. I work on an IT team for a small company, and one of the things we support are marketing campaigns for our company. So to set the cast, let's call my boss Kathy, and there is Peter, the sales manager. Peter has this brilliant idea of targeting a cross-section of 2 audiences for a new marketing campaign. He pitches it in the meeting and everyone gets super excited about this. After the meeting, Peter asks Kathy to set it up. Kathy pushes back immediately, saying she is confident that this new audience is not worth our time and it is maybe 200 potential customers out of 200,000. Now Peter has a lot of sway in the company and doesn't want to admit he made a mistake about his customers and said, well, I already said we were going to do it, so just do it. So I put in the requirements and it is worse than Kathy thought. 47 people. Once again, this is escalated to Peter, who insists we just do it, and he complains we are behind schedule on getting this done. Admittedly, it has been a few business days because we did not prioritize this stupid request. I pass along the new audience to our marketing folks, who design a campaign, set up a couple of new pages on the website, etc. Now about profitability. Our average transaction sales are pretty small, but a lot of repeat transactions from our customers. But just with the time I've spent on it, there is no way this campaign is paying even my salary, much less everyone else who spent time on it. Kathy doesn't want me to spend another second on it, but Peter, who again we have kept in the loop this entire time, wants to see it on our Power BI reports for the sales team and the C-suite. Normally, something this small would be rolled up into another category, but hey, Peter wants to see it, so I make sure that it is listed. In the updated bar chart, there is a line of text at the bottom. No bar associated with it because after 4 weeks, clicks 2, sales $0. I was not in the meeting after this went live, But I heard Peter went on a long spiel about the growth potential of this new campaign. Kathy and I are confident he's going to put it in his self-review about how innovative it is, assuming he still has a job. Well, judging from his confidence, even while doing stupid things, he will have the job. Because as you said before, he has a lot of sway in the company. So maybe he has very good expertise in some other field, but he is a sales manager. So I am so puzzled because if you are the sales manager already, meaning that you had performed good before, but then you create a pinnacle of a marketing campaign that brings zero profits. So if we have any marketing people in the comments, please tell me how it makes sense. Using the system to defeat stupid requests. I've been at my new job long enough I can share this now without feeling like there'd be blowback. I'm a web designer. Every place I've been, I get put in charge of the fleet of websites whatever company or group is running. And then I go through and do my thing, making sure the sites are tight, efficient, and user-friendly as I can. Web designer is like any task. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And for websites, that means the designer in charge has to be the arbiter of clutter. If things get to be too much on a page or requests that would degrade the UI of the site come in, we had to reject them. We want sites to be fast, light, and easy to use. Being the person in charge of the sites, I was generally the one to reject requests. We shouldn't do this because X, Y, and Z reasons. I was told by my bosses that I couldn't say no and that I had to be customer focused even when the requests to update the site were coming from those without technical knowledge or the desire to understand what I was saying and the reason why I wouldn't do something. This could also go over r/boomers being fools, because most of the people that hated me, someone younger than them, telling them no, were also of that generational set. Regardless, after a number of times of them getting a no because from me, them going over my head to my boss, and then my boss saying, just do it, I had to come up with a solution. If they were going to go around my informal process based on my knowledge and experience, I would formalize it. At the organization I was working at, we had standards, which were signed off by the higher-ups and had the word of law and guidance, which did get some sign-offs, but didn't go through the length formalization process. Standards you had to follow, but everyone thought guidance worked the same way. That was the loophole. I wrote a 60-page web update guide going over everything in the process, ensuring that any question I would be asked, anything that needed to get done, any stupid question that had come my way over the previous 2 years was answered. I then got my boss to sign off on it and then sent it around. I also posted it on the internal use portal. From that point forward, the guide was what we followed. Best part, and this is the malicious part, for those wondering, I never had to get any changes to the document approved. It was designed as a living document and I was this whole person in charge of it. Requester, hey, I want to do this on the page. Me goes and edits the web update guide to specifically disallow what they were requesting. Oh, I'm sorry, as per the web update guide, we cannot do this. Worked like a charm and made my job easier from that day forward. I think this post is not only malicious compliance, but bureaucracy is my friend now. I just wonder that if somebody would find out that you are editing this document after every uncomfortable request you get, is it possible that OP will get backlash? How can I, 28 female, get my husband, 28 male, to talk to me and see I'm owed an apology for his hurtful, disrespectful words? Sorry for the throwaway, we'll also try and make this as short as possible. My husband and I have been married for the last 2 years now. I really love this man, I really do, but he hurt me and disrespected me by telling me to F off last Saturday when I woke him up so we could get started on the plans he had for the day, shopping and some chores he wanted to get done. He has been working for a little over a month and think between 13 and 17-hour days due to some issues with overseas clients that he's in charge of. Some nights he has even came home with work still to do, and then he sits in front of the computer till the early morning. I work from home, so the last month's majority of everything has fallen on me. He wanted to get some things done around the house, but haven't gotten to due to his schedule, so he planned to do it over the weekend. Saturday morning, around 5 a.m., he got into the house and passed out on the bed with his work clothes still on. He even woke me up when falling onto the bed. I was awake since then and started with the day. Around 8, I woke him up and told him it's time to start with the day. He asked me to please leave him be for a couple of more hours because he was tired and just wanted some sleep. I reminded him that he set out the plans for the weekend and we needed to get the things done. He said, I know, but please, just give me a couple of more hours just to have some rest. He knows me and knows I like to stick to the schedule set out for us to get everything done. I shook him and told him to get up. We don't have time and the things need to get done. He mumbled something and I asked him to speak up. He then shut up and told me to F off. I am tired and there is a whole weekend to get things done. I am tired, I am at my limit and you are starting to piss me off. Then he left our room and locked himself in the spare room. I did follow him to the spare room, but he closed it in my face and I heard him say, effing ungrateful through the door. I am currently at my parents' house as I feel disrespected and hurt by what he said, telling me to F off because I wanted to stick to the list of everything he wanted to get done and the fact that he called me ungrateful for everything he does for me. I have never said anything or shown anything other than gratitude for the way he cares and provides for me, and having that thrown in my face hurts. My income doesn't amount to much, but still. I sent him a message telling him all the above and that I was hurt and felt disrespected, and I want an apology. He just responded with, you clearly do not know the meaning of disrespect. Just leave me alone. He hasn't answered any of my texts or calls for the last 3 days now. I have tried to talk to him through the doorbell and he doesn't respond. How can I make him see that he hurt me, that he disrespected me? One of my friends just laughed and told me I'm a stupid person and need to fix this before he divorces me. But she refuses to elaborate on anything that I did wrong. He made the schedule and planned everything out to be done. I just woke him up and wanted to stick to the schedule we agreed on. His disrespectful attitude was completely wrong, and telling your wife she's ungrateful and to F off is a step too far. How can I get him to talk to me? I want to talk this out, and I believe I am due an apology for what he said to me. What can I do? I want to go home. I really miss him, but I am a bit frightened due to his outburst. What can I do? Oh gosh, you can let him be, for example? And I love how OP is like, I want to talk this through. No, you don't. You just want to prove your point and make him apologize. But he didn't do anything wrong. I do not understand this type of partnership when your husband is clearly overworked. And if you love him, if you respect him, if you care for him even, the only logical thing for me would be to want to help him. Why can't you go shopping alone? Or go shopping later? I cannot even imagine. You go to work, you work for 17 hours. It's like more than double. Then you finally go back home. You are in your safe space. You go to bed. And literally 3 hours later, the person who is closest to you shakes you up and says, okay, wake up. We have to go shopping. I want to say F off, to be honest. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel because I really want to get 25 more subscribers till the end of the week. So if you subscribe, you will make my day. Would I be a butthole for going back on a promise to my kids? Firstly, thank you for reading this. Going back and forth on this has eaten me alive, and an outside view beyond my father will help a great deal. When I met my now deceased wife, she had already had a successful career and owned a home while I was struggling to find my footing in my industry. She helped to get me to mature and focus on my career more seriously, and eventually I broke through and started contributing with the bills. Even then, she was making in the 300,000s while I was scratching and crawling to earn 50K. Well, eventually we ended up having 2 kids, 19 female and 16 male, before she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and passed away pretty shortly after that. She had made me promise to pass down the home I was set to inherit upon her passing away, and I did so with zero hesitancy, not knowing what life would have in store. The kids were made aware of it because they were present when it was laid upon me. It was very difficult for me to lose the love of my life, the apple of my eye, and I think it blinded me from seeing how difficult the promise would be to keep. 4 months after her passing away, I ended up shopping at a Kroger's when I met what is now my fiancé, 29 female, who has 3 kids of her own, 10-year-old male, 8 and 4-year-old females. We've been together for over 8 months, and the discussion has come about moving in together. But she's wanting me to sell the house and buy a new construction together that wouldn't have memories of her around every corner, which I completely understand. The 2 issues that are currently eating me alive are that the kids are extremely upset that we'd sell mom's home that I paid some bills for too. And my father is worried that by selling this home to buy a new one would mean I would lose 50% equity if we separate in the future, which would mean my biological kids would only stand to inherit 50%, while my fiancé kids would inherit the other 50%, which I don't think the kids are aware of because I'd probably set off a nuclear bomb in the home. I broke the news to the kids on Tuesday about our plans, and they've all but ceased talking to me and have spoken pure vitriol on social media about me since then. And it hurts to see that, because we need to become a blended family, and they need to accept that they are going to have stepmom and step-siblings, and money shouldn't get in the way of family harmony, in my opinion. Would I be the butthole for going back on my promise to my deceased wife and going through with the sale of the family home to ensure our new blended family can have a larger home to grow up in? Oh wow, if it's true, I would pay money to get an update of this situation, because I can bet you that in the minimum legal amount of time, this girl will divorce him in a heartbeat, take away 50% of home, and move away. How naive you should be. She's 27 years younger than you are. I believe that love can be. The age doesn't matter. First, you say, my wife was a love of my life, an apple of my eye. But 4 months later, I met my new love of my life, a new apple of my eye. How many apples does your eye have? What a douchebag. You have nothing to do with that house. You didn't buy it. Your wife said, please pass it down to our kids. And you're like, yeah, now I have this new hot date and her kids, so I will sell this house. Oh, I want to use words that are not allowed on this channel. Am I the butthole for making my son apologize to my nephew for having a tantrum and making a scene? Me, 42 female, and my husband, 47 male, have a son who is 14. I'll call him Lucas. Lucas is generally a sweet and nice kid. He's friendly, he's very open, etc. He likes to read comics and draw. I think he's pretty good at it. I'm really proud of him. I couldn't wish for a better son. Anyway, Lucas has been visiting my sister, who is 28, for 3 days. My sister has an 8-year-old son, Gabriel. I was hoping Lucas would be friends with him. I exchanged messages with Lucas, and he always said it's going okay. Yesterday, I went to my sister's house to pick Lucas up, and she looked really hurt. Lucas was sitting there gloom as well. I asked what was wrong, and my sister told me to ask my son that question. It took me a long time to convince Lucas to tell me the truth, and he finally admitted what was wrong. As I understand it, Gabriel was curious about what Lucas was drawing. He had his sketchbooks with him. Lucas let him see his sketchbooks. but told him that Gabriel should handle them carefully. But when Lucas was outside, Gabriel, with his mother's permission as I understand it, and I am not excusing her for this, decided to check Lucas's things. When Lucas returned to the house, he found his sketchbooks torn up. I am not excusing what Gabriel did, but according to my sister, my son did not want to call me or my husband, and he didn't want to hear Gabriel's excuses. He threw a tantrum and called Gabriel a ton of names, even though my sister said he was just a kid. All these days, the atmosphere in the house was tense. My sister didn't call me because she was offended. My sister said she didn't even know if she would still want me or my son at their house after that. I said Lucas should apologize to Gabriel and his mom. Lucas was offended, but did so. When we go home, I ask why Lucas didn't tell me that Gabriel had torn up his sketchbooks. Lucas cried and said, "Because you never care." Those words hurt me deeply and were a low blow because I really love my son and I didn't think he could say those words to his own mom. But I promised him that I would buy him new sketchbooks and he could redraw his drawings in them. But my husband thinks I acted like a butthole in this situation and Gabriel and my sister are wrong. I am totally on your husband's side here. You never stood up for your son. I understand that maybe a sketchbook is not the biggest problem as you see it, but he is 14 and he doesn't own much. And since he likes drawing, I am sure that he takes pride in what he is creating. So this awful disregard of his feelings, poor Lucas. The only thing he could apologize for was for overreacting and calling names. That was uncalled for. True. But Gabriel could apologize for doing that. But I believe he was totally right to be upset about what happened. And also pushing a friendship between an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old, that doesn't really make sense. They are from totally different age groups. They have nothing in common. Am I the butthole for letting my toddlers explore an empty store with no other customers? My wife, 29 female, and I, 32 female, took our 2 sons, 2-year-old and 3-year-old, to a bed store to look for a bed. We went to the store about 25 minutes before it's due to close, so it would be quieter. Upon entering the store, the salesperson greeted us and left us to our own devices. My wife and I were browsing the options, and it was taking some time, as it's one of the bigger stores. There were no one else in the shop at the time, so I let my kids have a little runabout in the store, since it's a new experience for them. Admittedly, they were being loud-ish for running around an empty store and occasionally screamed, but there was no one there, so they weren't disturbing other patrons. I did try to shout to them to get them quiet down, as I saw the salesperson scowling at us from afar, which isn't the most polite thing to do in my opinion, but it's hard to ask them to quiet down when they are in an excitable mood. We didn't end up buying anything, as we didn't see anything we liked, and as we were leaving, my older was playing with the ottoman displays and pushed some of the bed frames down, and that made a loud noise as the bed slammed down. At this point, the salesperson, who has been stood silently at the side, started saying in a loud tone to my kid, "Please stop doing that." I've had enough of this salesperson because they've been nothing but unhelpful in this entire experience. Didn't ask us how we were doing, didn't offer any expertise, etc., sending annoyed stares our way. So I said to them that my son is 3 years old, hoping they'd understand that my son is young and they cannot understand verbal instruction, and there was no point of them being so stern with a 3-year-old who probably did not even know what was going on. At this point, the salesperson started walking towards my kid and the ottoman he pulled down and said to me to control my kids. I found this beyond shocking, as how dare they say this to me? They looked quite young. I would imagine someone who probably doesn't have kids and doesn't have any parenting experience, and definitely did not know what they were talking about. Not to mention, it was an incredibly rude thing and uncalled for thing to say. I said to them, "Excuse me?" To which they turned their heel and walked towards their desk area and sat down, refusing to engage with me any longer. I demanded their details so I could report them to their manager because this experience has been extremely bad. I admit I raised my voice a little because I find their behavior unprofessional and I found their statement insulting. I didn't end up getting the salesperson details as they weren't willing to give them up. My wife said that I overreacted, but I'm not sure. Am I the butthole for letting my kids explore an empty store with no other patrons? The first thing that rubbed me the wrong way in this post is when OP said there was no one there. But then OP clearly said that there was a salesperson. Isn't the salesperson a human? Don't we respect his feelings? Also, I am sure there can be some kind of financial liability on that salesperson if your kids ruin something. The second thing that really annoyed me is when OP said, well, my kid is 3 years old. He cannot understand verbal instruction. Well, if your kid cannot understand verbal instruction, maybe you have to pay more attention to him. It is a public setting after all. I personally have no bad feelings toward the kids because they are not responsible for themselves. But oh my god, the father is such a butthole. Am I the butthole for telling my mom's husband I never considered asking him to walk me down the aisle? I, 25 female, am engaged right now, and as you can likely tell from the title, my mom is married to someone who is not my dad. They got married 4 years ago, and they started dating 6 years ago. I was actually living in another country at the time, studying overseas. I only came back home briefly for the wedding and only came back officially last year. So I haven't spent much time with my mom's husband. But being truthful, even if I had, given the age I was when they got together, I wouldn't see him as my dad or my parent. Which is why he stunned me by telling me he wanted to give me away at my wedding. He told me he looked forward to doing it for all 3 of his girls. He has 2 daughters and a son, so I guess he counted me and was excited at the thought of me being the first he gives away. I didn't like the way he worded it, giving me away, or the fact he approached me about this when he had no hand in raising me. But my mom loves him, so I was kind, sad. It was a sweet offer, lovely gesture, but I wasn't very comfortable with that, and we could figure out something else for him to do if he wanted to be more involved in the wedding. This was met with him questioning why I would say no, and him saying he thought I would be happier to have him do it. He said, given I have no father in my life and grew up with no close adult males, it made sense. I pointed out to him that I had my mom who had raised me and sacrificed for me. He was like, yeah, but she's no man, and I told him I didn't plan to have a very traditional wedding. So mom doing it wouldn't be strange at all. He genuinely never considered the fact I would ask my mom, and he became very emotional when I brought this up. It was a mixture of embarrassment, sadness, and frustration, and he was word vomiting all over the place. It got on my nerves because he was clearly not okay with me saying no to him. He told me he should have been my first choice, and it made no sense that he wasn't, when he's the only father figure I have. I told him I never considered asking him once for the very reason he's not my father figure or my parent, and that role goes more to a parent generally than a parent's new spouse. He looked so offended and told me the fact I never considered him a valid option stung. He told me I couldn't have his money then. I asked him what he meant, and he said he had been expecting to pay, that mom had mentioned money. I told him that was nothing to do with him. It was money my mom saved for my wedding as I was growing up, and she had saved long before him. I told my mom what happened, and she was so embarrassed he acted that way. She said she'd talk to him, but I got a text not long after from him that reminded me I had hurt his feelings and offended him. Am I the butthole? Of course not. He's just giving off very weird vibes. And I see no problem at all if your mom walks you down the aisle. To be fair, I find it so touching and cute. This guy should be in his 40s or 50s at least, but he behaves like a middle schooler. Being married to the mother does not really make you a father. It doesn't work like that. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I really want to get 25 more subscribers till the end of the week. So if you subscribe, you will make my day. Am I the butthole for pointing out my sister's disability after she disregarded my son's privacy? My son was born with epispadias, rare birth defect that occurs when the urethra doesn't develop properly, causing urine to exit the body from an abnormal location. Due to this, my husband, 32 male, and I, 29 female, are particular about who changes his diaper, keeping it minimal. Grandparents and a few of my siblings are the only people who change him. Our family is aware we would like to keep his privates private. My sister, 29 female, was watching our son for a few hours before, no problem. My grandmother was watching our son last week and had a doctor's appointment, which interfered with our typical schedules. So she had my sister come over to watch him while she went to her appointment. My husband and I saw no issue with this, as she has watched him in the past. When picking up our son, my husband found out that my sister allowed my cousin, 18 female, to change our son's diaper. I was incredibly upset with this, since I thought we had made it very clear how we felt about his privacy. I called my sister and asked her to elaborate on why she allowed my cousin to change the diaper. She stated that he had pooped and she was unable to change him on her own. My sister has cerebral palsy and has a hard time using her right arm. She said she wasn't able to keep him still and get him clean. I expressed that I was really upset with her, that she had broken my trust, and she shouldn't have agreed to watch him if she wasn't capable of changing him on her own. She became defensive and said she wasn't sure what else to do because she knew I wouldn't want him sitting in poop. She speaks about having children of her own, so I let her know that it's something she should think about before having them, because there won't always be someone around to change them. We left the conversation both frustrated. I have since heard from a few family members that my comment really upset her. I reached out a few days ago to apologize for what I had said, but wanted her to know she still broke my trust. I tried to explain that I think she will be capable of changing her own children, and I believe that she could have changed my son. I also mentioned that as someone with a visible disability, I thought she would understand our request, as our son will likely go through some of the hardships of not feeling accepted or feeling different, as she has. She cried and said her feelings are hurt and that she doesn't feel as though I'm hearing her out and that she needed help. She said she needs space to figure out how she feels about it. I am struggling. I feel awful for what I said, and I don't want to make her feel incapable because I know she's very capable. But also, I don't want her to think I'm okay with what she did. I'm feeling like my family think I'm the awful person for saying such a thing, even though I think she's an awful person for not respecting a boundary we had put in place for the privacy of our son. Yikes! Imagine being such an awesome sister that despite being disabled, you go out of your way to help your sister and babysit your nephew, but due to your disability, you turn out to need help with the babysitting. And after that, your sister makes a big fuss about, "Oh, you did not respect our boundary." Excuse me. I believe that cerebral palsy is something that you get from very young. So OP has known that her sister is disabled, and she knows that disability is not similar every day. Someday you can be more mobile. Someday you can be more tired or you have stronger pains. But no, the queen is not served properly. OMG, get a babysitter. I really do understand that taking care of a child with special needs is difficult, but you really cannot expect everyone in this world to go out of their way to be helpful to you. Am I the butthole for telling my mom and siblings they should learn to live with the consequences of their decisions? So my family is my dad, mom, my 2 sisters, and my 2 brothers. I am 17 male, the oldest. My dad was estranged from his dad since he was my age. His mom passed away when he was 10, so we never knew grandma either. My dad was open about the fact that grandpa wasn't a very nice man and all kinds of stuff, but he never went into details. I know he really did a number on dad, because I still sometimes see dad look ashamed if he spills something or makes a mistake. I also know he tries to hold back anytime he tries and looks downright disgusted with himself for crying. 3 years ago, his dad reached out and my mom and my sister, who is 15, were so excited and basically welcomed him into the family. Dad said, "No way." He and mom thought a lot about it. My siblings all told dad that they had a right to know our grandfather and he should love his dad. I was dragged along at first, but I stopped going. Dad had refused to have any part in it, and he and mom fought because he told her his father was never going to step foot inside our house, and if he did, then dad would leave and he would never come back. So mom takes my siblings to see him. Christmas was a huge effing fight last year because they decided to spend it with this dude and my dad refused to go, and so did I. My siblings started crying into dad's face that they wanted Christmas with him. Mom was calling him selfish. She tried to do the whole, "I'm your mother and you listen to me." And dad told her he's my father and I could stay with him if I wanted to. They're still sour about it, but then dad took me out for his birthday and didn't come home until late because he found out they were planning to take him out to meet with his father. My dad told my mom and my siblings since he cannot trust them with his birthday, he will only celebrate with the people he can trust now. I also heard him tell mom this couldn't continue and they needed to divorce. Now my mom is freaking out because she doesn't want the divorce and my siblings are really upset. They told me I should help since dad and I are still close. I told them they should learn to live with the consequences of their decisions. I pointed out to mom she was always big on us learning. I told them this is a big one. My mom told me my siblings are so young and don't deserve this. I told her it's all her fault because she undermined dad by making a point to demand he will come with her in front of my siblings, and so they think they can manipulate him and not listen. Am I the butthole? This situation is so weird. I do not understand the obsession of OP's mom to reconnect with her father-in-law. If she knows for a fact that he was very hurtful towards her husband in his childhood, why would she want to subject her children to that same person? I believe that divorce can be avoided if only OP's mom can really respect the decision of her husband to go no contact with his dad. But honestly, I simply do not understand why would you want to go spend time with that person if you know how much he hurt your husband? Am I the butthole for refusing to bring my letter from my mom to family therapy? My parents broke up when I, 16 male, was a few weeks old. They were never married and they were like 19, 20 when they had me, so pretty young. They didn't get along so good, but they could be sort of civil to each other. It really depends on what was going on, I think, because sometimes they stayed away from each other. When I was 6, my dad met my stepmother and they got married by the time I was 7. My mom and stepmother did not get along at all. I remember feeling the tension between them. I remember hearing my stepmother grumble to dad about mom if I had to go to their house instead of home with mom after they had all been in the same place. It was extra bad if they all showed up to my dance recitals. My stepmother wanted to be the one doing some of the dance stuff. She used to tell my dad she didn't think she'd have much in common with a young boy, but dance could be our thing. And mom was hugging it by always being there. Mom was the person who signed me up for dance. Dad was not on board back then. He's a bit too macho dude for that. My mom got sick when I was 8 and she passed away when I was 10. The worst part of that time was when she got too sick to take care of me and I had to live with my dad all the time. I still saw my mom, but it wasn't the same. Before she passed away, she wrote me a letter and told me to read it whenever I needed to feel close to her. She said she put all her love into that letter. She also left me cards for milestones. My mom's original letter made my stepmother so angry though. I never called my stepmother mom or anything. I never called her my parent either. I know she technically is, but I always disliked the idea of her being called that because she hated mom so much and felt like mom needed to step back from stuff to let her take over them, like dance. My stepmother is pissed that my mom never mentioned her in the letter and that mom never asked me to let her, stepmother, in. She felt like mom put up a final wall between us and made sure she would always be the outsider in my eyes, and I would always long for my mom and reject her as a mother figure. Our relationship is really tense, while things with my dad are better than they were when I was younger. He got softer. So he said the three of us should go to therapy together to figure stuff out. After 2 months of therapy, my stepmother wants the letter brought into sessions, and the counselor feels that's a good idea and we should discuss the content of it since it's such a point of tension. But I don't want my stepmother anywhere near it. She's poison when it comes to my mom, and I don't want her to taint it. The counselor told me it would only benefit us all. My stepmother got mad and said even a piece of paper is more important to me than she is. We had 2 sessions since, and I did not bring it. This made my stepmother's anger worse. Am I the butthole? No, of course not. I guess one of the main points of therapy is only to do what you are comfortable with. And if you are not comfortable with sharing that letter, don't. No matter what your father or stepmother says. And also, maybe it could be a good idea if you could find some safe space to hide it from her, because you never know what can get into her and maybe someday she will just destroy it because she hates your mom that much. Am I the butthole for changing my mind about letting my girlfriend name our son? My girlfriend is currently pregnant with our first child, which we recently learned was a boy. Before we knew the gender, we made a deal that if it was a girl, I would choose name, and if it was a boy, she would pick. That was before I realized I hated every single name on her list, especially the 2 that she was leaning toward the most, Alien and Gawain. After the Knights of the Round Table. One thing about her is that she has always been into fantasy and mythology, especially the Arthurian legends, and she expressed that she has always loved both of these names. Even though I didn't like her choices, I figure we didn't even know the gender yet, so there was no point in bringing it up. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a boy. Not because I didn't want a boy, but because I didn't want to have this conversation. I was hoping that she would change her mind and pick a better name, but no. She decided on Alien, which I guess is better than Gawain, but I still hate it. It sounds like a D-bag in a teen movie. They were trying way too hard to give a unique name. I asked her if she had any normal names that we would both be happy with. She asked me what was wrong with the name she chose, and I brought up the above-mentioned concern. She got upset and told me that we had an agreement, and she would have accepted any name I chose, even though she didn't like any of them either, I guess because they were normal names. Now she barely talks to me. I've apologized for being so harsh about it, but I would at least like a say in the matter. I even mentioned another name that was on her list that I didn't hate as much, Leon, but she won't budge. I honestly don't think it's unreasonable for me to want to have a say in my own son's name, but everyone I talked to said that they actually really like the name, and it's not fair for me to go back on our deal. So, am I the butthole? And here's an edit. Okay, yes, making that deal was stupid, and we shouldn't have done it in the first place. And yes, asking her to pick a normal name was a poop thing to say. I'm going to sit down and have an actual conversation with her about it and see if we can come to some kind of an agreement. Maybe it's girl speaking at me, but I say butthole, butthole, butthole. Because after all what women have to go through to produce a child, she can give him name, last name, middle name, nickname, everything. The name is beautiful, it's unique, it's not stupid, there is no such a thing as stupid name. And also, OP is just a meanie towards his pregnant girlfriend. Moreover, name can be changed. It's not forever. We can remember how Kylie Jenner renamed her son like million times. Oh, by the way, what is her son's name? Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I really want to get 25 more subscribers till the end of the week. So if you subscribe, you will make my day. Am I the butthole for putting both my obese and skinny twins on a diet? I have 2 children, 14-year-old identical twins Megan and Alana. Both are 5 feet tall. Megan weighs over 150 pounds, while Alana weighs around 95. They used to be the same weight until they were around 7, when Megan started getting chubby, but still healthy weight. When she was 11, Megan was considered medically overweight. I went to a doctor for advice, and he said that I shouldn't worry too much since a lot of kids gain weight right before puberty and then balance out after their growth spurt. The twins had their growth spurt last year, and Megan's weight has only increased since then, to the point where she's actually obese. So I decided to implement a healthy diet for the entire family. I slowly started to cut back on sugar, junk food, and unhealthy snacks. I'd cook them high-volume, low-calorie meals full of vegetables and protein so that they feel full after eating. Neither of the twins are very athletic, so I've also tried encouraging them to engage in physical activities like swimming, bike riding, trampolining, etc. I tried putting emphasis on staying healthy instead of losing weight. However, Alana guessed that the reason for this new diet is because I want Megan to lose weight. She started complaining that it's not fair that she also has to diet because her sister is fat. I told her that I didn't want Megan to feel singled out and feel as though she's the only one being punished for her weight. Am I the butthole? And there is an edit. I've gone to multiple doctors, and neither of the twins have medical conditions that would influence their weight. Well, first of all, it's great that OP actually consulted the doctor before doing anything. And I do not think that anybody is a butthole here, but the only thing I think OP shouldn't have done is to admit that these dietary changes are because of Megan. Because she did what she feared could happen. She singled Megan out. Am I the butthole for hiring a cleaning service and paying for it out of my wife's budget? My wife is a stay-at-home mom. We have 2 children, 10 and 12. I pay all the bills, put money aside for the kids' education, emergencies, savings, vacations, retirement, etc. Then, whatever is left, I split 50-50 with my wife. Recently, she has decided that I do not do enough around the house, so she wants me to start doing more chores. I asked if we were going to split up all the chores again. What I mean is the kids have their chores, she has hers, and I have mine. So if she wants me to do more, I want mine redistributed as well. I think she can mow the lawn and do the yard work and house maintenance, but this is not what she wants. She wants me to take on more of the chores we agreed would be hers, on top of earning all the money and all the chores I currently have. I asked her what she wanted me to do. She gave me a list. I hired a cleaning service and paid for it out of our budget before splitting the fun money. Now she says that I'm a butthole and being financially hurtful. I think it's a fair compromise. Oh, I totally agree. That's a great idea. And I do not think that OP paid from his wife's money because he paid from their common budget before splitting the fun money. I think this is very fair. I understand that being a stay-at-home mom is very hard. You're always at work. And it is totally normal that you can need help. And that's exactly what husband did. He hired someone to help. So I do not see what is the problem here. Am I the butthole for not attending my mom's birthday dinner over something she said about my autistic son? I am a 29 female mom and I have a 3-year-old son who is autistic. Sadly, my husband passed away in March and I was devastated. I knew I'd have to raise our son alone. I figured I couldn't do it all alone. So I decided to relocate to a small town 70 miles away where my parents, retired 63 male and 60 female, lived. I moved close to my parents partly because they'd be able to help babysit my son whenever I needed to take a break. I rented a cheap house in a quiet, sparsely populated neighborhood, and I found a job in an assisted living facility. Working at the assisted living facility was tedious, and parts of the job were really gross. Also, I was being mistreated all the time. I faced verbal and physical mistreatment daily, and the management would always apologize but do nothing. After 3 months of working there, I decided that I just couldn't do it anymore, and I would be quitting after my next paycheck. One night, while I was asleep, an intruder tried to break into my house. I called the police immediately, but it took over 40 minutes for them to arrive. Thankfully, nothing bad happened, but I knew right then that I wasn't safe there anymore and I needed to move to a safer place. I couldn't sleep at night. In the morning, I called my parents to let them know what had happened and that we'd like to stay over at their place for maybe a few days while I looked for a new place. As soon as our conversation ended, I overheard a conversation between my parents. My mom was unaware that she didn't end the call. I heard my mom say, "She's asking to bring that little weird thing over for a few days." And then my dad goes, "Oh God, please no." That really hurt me because I've always been close to my parents and thought they'd always be there for me. The thing is, I never really bothered them with my son. He's been there like 4 times in 3 months. I felt bad for myself and for my son. It hit me that I was his only true support. I've always been worried about his future and what life would be like for him when I'm gone. This just made it worse. With everything that had happened, I decided it was best to move to a much bigger town about 45 miles away. Later that day, I called my parents and told them that we were moving. The next day we left and we've been here for a week now. Last week, Saturday, was my mom's birthday. My parents are kinda poor and I am an only child. So it's usually a simple family dinner with 3 of her closest friends. On Thursday, I called my mom and told her that I wouldn't make it for her birthday dinner. I didn't tell her what I heard, I just feel like we're not really wanted there. My mom was angry and disappointed knowing I was supposed to help out with the cooking and dinner preparations. We haven't spoken since Thursday. I know she's probably angry at me. I have been thinking about it lately and wondering if I was wrong for not attending. Am I the butthole? No, of course not. Feels like OP's mom only was frustrated that OP did not come and help them for free. Or maybe they were uncomfortable of their daughter not being there, so they had to explain their friends why she's not attending. Am I the butthole for laughing out loud when my husband told me his friends think he's the perfect husband? My husband was all smiles and encouragement when he told me that his friends at church told him they were talking about he's the perfect husband. I immediately laughed and noticed that he was offended by that. I then started to tell him how I believe he's an amazing husband and I wouldn't want to be married to anybody else, but I know the good, bad and ugly, so perfect is not how I would describe you. I could tell he was still not pleased. I told him my reaction was the same way he loves and thinks if only you knew when someone tells him that I must be an angel and they cannot see me getting upset because he sees me when I'm upset often. I learned that he expected me to be happy for him and think that it's awesome that his friends think so highly of him. Even when I challenged that I know you the best as a husband because I'm married to you, he told me his friends know him better because I tell them things I do not tell you. He also shared he didn't think they literally mean perfect in the sense of having 0 flaws, But this interpretation was they thought him to be a high-quality role model husband. When they gave him the compliment, he simply said thank you and said he wanted to ask them later about why they think that. As for me, the perfect, not perfect husband talk is okay. What bothers me most in this situation is when OP's husband told, "Well, my friends know me better than you know me." What? Why? Why are you married to that person if you're not ready to share everything about yourself with that person? Maybe it's not the best idea? And the second thing is when he said that he would go and talk to them later and specifically ask them why they had told him that he was the perfect husband. How self-obsessed should you be? Thank you for listening. You can also watch this awesome video or that awesome playlist. See you next time!